Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Happy Thursday, Dr. Paul.
Very nice to be here, and the weather's warming up. Yeah. I might even get outdoors a little bit, yeah. But they said it's going to rain. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about important things, and that is what's happening in the world. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about our government spying on us.
No.
But, you know, you keep thinking, there can't be another new one. They do everything they want anyway, and they don't have to tell anybody what they're doing, and nobody really investigates it. What if you suspect the FBI spying on us? Who do you call?
Yeah,
who do you call now? That's so sad. And we shouldn't even make jokes of it, but I guess that's the easiest way to try to live with it. But Jim Jordan was on TV yesterday, and there's an article today, several articles. He's been interviewed a lot. And Jim Jordan is not bashful.
No.
And he says he demands answers after the Biden administration, I can't believe that, caught flagging MAGA and Trump to track political opponents' financial transactions. That should be against the law. But back, whom are we going to call, you know? Because the government's involved, and they're the ones that are doing this. And I was just mentioning, you know, that the government started doing this. When I first went to Congress, it wasn't me that started it, though. I was shocked. And that was the Financial Secrecy Act, it was, or something. It was to provide privacy, the Privacy Act, and they were going to, the government protect us. But almost always, you know, no matter what the name is on bills, remember how I would talk, it's going to be the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what that was. It was just sort of opening the door. And now, you know, just, you know, a few years ago, they brought up with the Medical Privacy Act. And there's more controls of the doctors reporting every single thing instantaneously to the government. But don't worry, there's a lot of material there, but they have this you know, artificial intelligence, and they'll know what to do with it, you know, and somehow or another it's always added up. I've often wondered whether in the old days when they didn't have so much technology on their side, is just let them fill out the forms, and that was true on the financial forms in the 70s. There were a lot of forms filled out, and it was too manual, so it never had the effect. But now they're more dangerous than they've been. It seems like protecting ourselves against illegal searches and seizures doesn't match up with what the government is able to do. Of course, they have the authority and the power of the federal government, and that's sort of the way we work on international finances, everything else. We have authority with our weaponry. We can threaten people, and also, you know, we have the guns and the technology and the ability with our reserve currency. But this is another one, and the interviews I saw yesterday were very powerful, and I'm glad it's out there. But tell me something, Daniel, to say, rest it, Ron, you know, you're worrying too much. They're not going to do any more than they did before. Oh, well, that doesn't mean much. Yeah. What we want to do is reverse some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not naive. We know there's a lot of dirty tricks. There's always been dirty tricks. That's part of the game. But this seems particularly insidious because, as I understand, and we can put up that first clip because it's the article we're talking about. We saw it originally in Zero Hedge. You saw Jordan on TV, and you said he made a very powerful presentation on this. But here it is. Jim Jordan demands answers, as you say, Dr. Paul, after the Biden administration was flagging MAGA and Trump to track political opponents' financial transactions. So he has obtained documents revealing that these agencies have done this. Now, as I understand, I'm not an expert, but just imagine if you're involved in a transaction, maybe you're getting a car loan or something, you know, and you keep getting flagged and flagged, trying to get a house loan to have you. And here you have these problems. And I'll go to the next one. Here's a letter he sent to the individual that was in charge of the government institution, where he's asking, it's not only MAGA and Trump, it's also if you bought a religious text like a Bible, or if you shopped at Bass Pro Shop, and a couple of those other places where you buy the big boats. I guess that's their stereotype of a Trump supporter, is you got I don't know, dressed in camo and going fishing or something.
You know, what they haven't figured out yet is the more they go after Trump, because they put him at the top of the list, and then they attack some principles that, you know, a lot of Americans still believe. You know, most Americans haven't burnt their Bibles, you know, and even the ones who don't read it, they're not into that kind of business. So I think they underestimate how this backfires on them, and you know, when they make charges and they accuse them and indict people, everybody's recognizing now. The more they do it, the more popular Trump becomes. Now, this is just a suggestion that this is what they're just going to spy on him more. And that's just going to be, people will brush this off and say, there they go again. And, you know, there was something Trump said that was sort of funny. The judge, one of the judges were arguing with Trump, and they were going to force him out of the room or something like that. He says, he just sort of like, go ahead, because that would be worth about a couple million more supporters, because it's so ridiculous. But that is pretty astounding. How dumb they can be, because they have so much power. Maybe that's a really bad sign, because they think that they are so powerful, they're in charge, that lying is part of the system. It used to be that if they were cheating and doing things, they at least pretended they weren't doing it and they were sneaky about it. But now they're bold, and the more bold they are, the less effective it is. So that's okay. That to me means that our side wins by being able to sort some of this stuff out.
Yeah, but overall it's very unhealthy, you know, and a lot of this started with the January 6th thing, where the whole thing was completely overblown, as Ramaswamy would say. It was a setup. But what it does is it pushes us more toward a civil war, which I don't think anyone should welcome, anyone with a brain on their head, because you feel like not only does this administration not like me, okay, we get that, but you're here now, you're labeling me extremist. And we saw this before with the FBI. Remember, they labeled libertarians extremists. How dare they? And they were monitoring certain types of religious organizations as extremists. So it really pits Americans against Americans. As you say, it probably doesn't work. It doesn't dissuade them. But I think it will strike most Americans as just profoundly un-American to do that.
You know, one of the people that were told to watch out and see if there's any mention of MAGA and any Trump supporters buying stuff, one was Dick's Sporting Goods. You know what? I thought, I figured that one out. That wasn't too complex. The people who go to the sporting goods, they might own a gun.
Yeah.
that could be it. So it's just another list. We'll cross-match them, and if they get it, in the day after that, they got a ticket for speeding. Yeah. So we better follow him very closely. He sounds like a very dangerous person.
Yeah. Well, it's a bloody path to go down, and I hope it doesn't continue. But I know you have some more to say on this, or should we move on?
No, I'm ready to go on to...
It's a mixed one, because it's good news and bad news.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be honest. Put this next. Now, this is from the Epoch Times, and we got it through Zero Hedge. Young audiences question climate alarmism, prompting calls to censor the content. And if you go to the next one, what this was is this group, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. It sounds scary. It's a left-wing British group. They did a study because they wanted to figure out what's going on social media with climate change, global warming, what have you. What they found out was it revealed a significant skepticism, this study they did, among young people regarding climate alarmism. It's a development that poses a challenge to advocates of urgent climate action, but is likely to be welcomed by those who see stoking fear about the supposed ills of global warming as exaggerated. This is the explanation in Epoch Times. Now, this group, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, now you'd think they'd be out there, I don't know, looking for Nazis or something. No, but it's a left-leaning group that was sued by Elon Musk for allegedly engaging in a scare campaign to drive away advertisers. So what they found, if you go to the next one before I turn it back, now they went and they looked and they found something very alarming, Dr. Paul. Researchers found that roughly 1/3 of teenagers, the predominant YouTube audience, hold views such as, quote, climate policies cause more harm than good, or consider, quote, climate change a hoax to control and depress people. That's got to warm the cockles of your heart.
That is disaster for the enemy, because ideas have consequences, and what I sort of get a personal enjoyment out of this is young people waking up, because I've always argued the case. Not that, but if I'm in an audience and I'm talking about young people being responsive, I talk about young people, at heart, and if they're young at heart and open to ideas, you're young and an understanding of liberty. But to me, this is great news. This is realism coming through. It's with the young people. I believe they're more open-minded, and I usually categorize the group that is least likely to come this way, but you have to be careful, because not everyone in this, and that's just the Chamber of Commerce, because they're so blended in, to Slavian, and depending on the government and all the bonuses that they get. And I think that the amazing thing about all this is when they do all these airs and they don't work, and young people start to wake up, the people that have gotten themselves into a hole here, they never are sorry. They're incapable of showing shame and say, the embarrassment is, we would never be embarrassed because we're on the side of righteousness, and they see it. And unfortunately, many of them, they might want to get rid of the Bibles, but they just adapt to another religion, that they think they can get away with and do what they want. And of course, that to me is the eternal contest between telling the truth and the nihilism, where people think, don't waste your time on this. And I think that conflict is growing and growing, but I think the identification of it is very worthwhile. And people have sorted it out, not because I suggested it, but people have sorted it out because what percentage of the people don't believe the government now? And here the young people are looking at this, and they've been indoctrinated for a long time. I was shocked when 15 or 20 years ago, come across what some of the kids in kindergarten were. They were indoctrinated with some of this stuff. So I think this is, I consider it mostly good news. And then those of us who believe in different ways, to try to put it in a form where they understand why politics are important, ideas are important, and congratulate these young people for saying, guess what? These young people might have more common sense than these people who have gone through 15, 20 years of government education. Yeah,
it's good. So the conclusion is very good. Very happy that kids are more skeptical about this stuff they're being fed. And we've talked about several polls recently where younger people seem to have a little bit better head on their shoulders, which is good. Now here's the bad part, I have to say, because this is a little bit more about this group. Now this is the study they put out. This is the organization. Look how creepy and menacing the cover of their study is. If you can put that next clip up. The new climate denial. How social media platforms and content producers profit by spreading new forms of climate denial. And you can see a lot of things here now. It's the Center for Countering Digital Hate. There's nothing hateful about being skeptical about the climate change, right? But they make it look like it. And they use this word denial. And it's not an accident, because it sounds like Holocaust denial. And it puts you in that same category as some kind of very bad person who would say that never happened. And it's by design. Now here's what they did. Here's what the study was about. This is from the executive summary of this report. So they used an AI model to measure changes in climate denial on YouTube. So they gathered transcripts. I mean, can you believe that they actually wasted money on this? They gathered transcripts for 12,058 videos from climate denial on YouTube channels. The data was drawn from 96 YouTube channels that have promoted denial. Videos under analysis are climate related and from the last 6 years. Videos in our data set containing denial claims were viewed 325 million times. The transcripts were categorized by an existing AI model, et cetera, et cetera. The testing indicates the model is 78% accurate in categorizing claims. So that's what they did, okay? And now here's what they found out. It is, go to that next one if you can. Climate deniers have shifted to a new denial of climate impact. So they used to be doing old denial, which is, leave that up there if you can, please. They used to be doing old denial, which is really bad, but new denial is even worse because the old deniers were simple. Global warming is not happening. Well, of course, that's pretty much been proven. Human-generated greenhouse gases are not causing global warming. That's old denial. Well, new denial with the young people. The impacts of global warming are beneficial or harmless. Climate solutions won't work. Climate science and the climate movement are unreliable. This is the horrible things that the new denial is happening. So 70% of the denialists are new deniers of it.
But you know, this fits into the same type of denial in science in general, in medicine. How about the immunization?
Yeah.
You know, and that, I kept thinking, well, it's over. They had such a failure. They're proven liars. Even Fauci is on the ropes.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
You know, people are realizing that they've been lied to. So the young people, the young at heart, or the young people who have come to this conclusion, ought to say, well, maybe medicine is distorted too. You know, not only the information on the climate. You know, I would think scientifically the climate might be a little equally as hard to figure out as it would be in medicine.
Yeah.
But now a lot of people have figured out because the statistics are so bad. And so what do? Well, if you're 21, you can take it. Or if you are you fearful of losing your job because you won't get it? Okay, I guess I better take it. And what do? They move it down to the kids, little kids, and you know, that to me is it is criminal. So, but there's a lot more resistance now than there was a month or a year before COVID came out, because right now there will be another COVID episode of some sorts, and the enemy's preparing for this, but they're going to have their lies lined up, threats. They'll use threats and punishment, and they won't use common sense, and they won't use science. You know, and just think how many good scientists resisted the immunizations, but they were ridiculed, and many were fired, and I imagine, I mean, I think it's a lot better off now than we have to, but I don't think for a minute the enemy has given up on the indoctrination and the evil that they portray through the medical system, especially because they want everybody getting every drop of medical care from the government. And they'll say, that's it. You know, just as in the Soviet system, if you didn't obey, you didn't get put to jail. You lost your job and you lost a place to live. And there will be ways to use it. And then they'll use the argument, oh, well, only 10% of the people died last year when we gave shots, so you have a pretty good chance you can make it. Yeah. But you know, in medicine, 10% is unbelievable failure, you know.
Well, you're right, I mean, in bringing this up, because it's exactly what we heard. This is the same garbage we heard over COVID. The science is settled, you know, and Fauci, I am the science. Well, all that was proven a pack of lies, and the same people pushing this garbage are the same people that were pushing the COVID garbage, so no wonder their reputations are being hurt. No wonder people don't believe a single thing they say, because they lied. The vax is 100% effective. Do not question it or you are a denier. All that was a lie. And so this is what they're facing now. Their lies have caught up with them on this.
You know, one individual that's been associated with this monstrous policy, he's a famous and rich person. He got to be a senator, and he got to be in the Biden administration, and that's John Kerry.
Yeah.
But he's looking badly lately. Yeah. He looks like he has a sour face, yeah. and he should. But I think we can learn from him on how he has reacted, because you know, the things that our viewers and others would respond to were the hypocrites.
Yeah.
You know, if they were saying one thing and not following it, well, why is Nancy Pelosi forcing all this on us? Does it look like she's really worried? Yeah. You know, this sort of thing. And so that's an eye opener. But also just the purpose of being wrong. The evidence is showing that And the process is what's wrong. It's who decides what science is. It used to be the scientist.
Yeah.
You know, all my life, I don't think well, there was a little bit of hint of what was coming when I was in medical school, but it wasn't anything like right now, because now they screen you and you have to be very careful. You know, if you happen to be right to life, you might lose some opportunities in medicine.
Yeah. Well, here's the chilling part of their study, and if you can put this last one on, because we'll save the worst for last on this one, I have to say. Now, this is their recommendation because people are not buying their line that the science is settled, and they're getting mad. So they say that platforms must update their policies to keep up with the new denial narratives. Google must update its policy on climate content to reflect new denial. Digital platforms must demonetize and de-amplify climate denial content. Climate advocates should use this report as a call to action to address new denial. So they're not seeking to persuade us. They're not seeking to debate us on this issue. They are seeking to use violence and force to shut us up. And that's the argument of someone who doesn't have an argument.
Yeah, and they have a position because they're in charge of all the educational system, whether it's what you learn in college, medical school, and your residency, and the jobs you get. There's always going to be a pressure. And then the people are really, I can understand how torn they are, because quite frankly, there are times when, you know, I think it's very legitimate. We need the doctors and we need some help. And I thought it's getting harder and harder for me to pick out the good guys. Now, it turned out that it was ironed out by the help of many, many people about the COVID,
yeah.
You know, where the good guys were and the bad guys were. But when you think about all the things in medicine, I think one thing that I thought came out of the COVID thing is, having immunity, building immunity,
yeah.
and a diet and different things like that has been beneficial, and more emphasis in the past. So it's sort of counteracted. Well, if you're going to get, your science is fake, what else are they talking about? And they are talking about alternative medicine, but the government doesn't endorse alternative medicine. They'll probably just say no fees. You can't. It'll be everybody will have to get medical care from the government,
yeah.
and then they'll dictate what the doctor
yeah.
does.
Yeah, you'll get, yeah. Well, the last one is kind of a little update here because we talked about it earlier. I know, Dr. Paul, it's going to shock everyone, but we were proven right. And to put this next clip up, the U.S. launches a 4th round of strikes against the Houthis in Yemen. We predicted earlier this week that this is not going to work, guys. You're doing exactly what the Houthis want. They want the big, they view as the big Satan, but certainly the big superpower. They want the big superpower to attack them because it makes them players in this. And as a backup, what they've done is they've essentially shut down the Red Sea. And now the mainstream media would like you to believe that they've shut it down to all shipping. They haven't. They've shut it down to ships entering or leaving Israeli ports because they have professed solidarity with the citizens of Gaza who are being slaughtered right now. And so they won't let the ships go. So Biden administration, in its infinite wisdom, decided that a couple of bombs is going to dissuade them, even though the Saudis had bombed them for 10 years and the Houthis won. Forget that. A couple of American bombs, and they'll be cowering in their bunkers. It didn't work. They keep attacking ships that are violating what they impose, which is that no ships can enter or leave Israeli ports.
You know, though our anticipations and our warnings have come to fruition, we shouldn't rest because it's not going to stop. The bombs are going to continue. Look at the bombs that dropped. Oh, how could America ever lose its first war against the people of Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yet they did, and dropped more bombs than they did in the Second World War. But we're in a war, and what's the best thing to get out? Well, the best thing to get out is don't get in.
Yeah.
And that's where the tragedy is, because people have accepted, they accept the scare tactics of they're on our doorsteps, they're going to invade, and they're going to drop bombs on us, and they're responsible for COVID, and on and on. So we have to destroy them. Look at how much China stuff goes on. Yeah, they're not exactly capitalists and free market people, but to tell you what, they are not quite as bad as we paint them to be, that we have to decide we're going to war with them. And that is what's going on. But we're at war right now, and it's illegal. It wasn't declared. It doesn't make any sense. It's an immoral war. We don't have the money to pay for it. But the war, if I wanted to narrow down the war, I would say the war is continuing from bad policy all the way back to 1953. We're at constant war, and it's accelerating. Yeah. And that is U.S. against Iran.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a lot of people and a lot of different people that associate with one side or the other. But whether it's Syria, whether it's Iraq, it's always, there's the Iranians are there. The United States you can expect that they're there because they get there first. Yeah. and stir things up. Did you know that the United States is committing coups and undermining governments, and the ones whose governments were taken over, they don't like it, but that's why they have to shoot our planes down, because they don't like Americans aggressing against them.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple things about it. Now, the first one is this is a little clip from Bloomberg. If we put that next one on, airstrikes on Yemen bring new level of chaos to shipping in the southern Red Sea. Now, that's exactly what the Houthis want. They want to impose costs on the U.S.'s continuing to back Israel in this conflict. And I read somewhere else, I don't have it in front of me, but the shipping costs have quadrupled since the Red Sea is out of commission. So that means a huge cost imposed upon the world by this little embargo, the de facto embargo that the Houthis have implemented. So regardless of how you feel about what they're doing, they've been enormously successful. There's no question about it. Look at this next one. Now here's Megatron, I think the name of this Twitter X account is, and I follow them. I think they're often very interesting. They have a good analysis, I think. U.S. officials say that strikes were conducted tonight against several Houthi ballistic and cruise missile sites in Yemen that were preparing attacks on ships in the Red Sea. And then he goes on to say, don't believe this nonsense. The Houthis have long since hidden all ballistic missiles and all weapons in bunkers similar to those in Iran. And there's a photo on the left. U.S. and U.K. shots are on empty targets. The Biden administration wants to show muscle since today the U.S. lost another commercial ship. These are totally useless shots. And I think that's a pretty accurate analysis. But don't worry, Dr. Paul. Tony Blinken has got a plan. Put the next one up. He's got a plan to deal with it. U.S. Secretary of State. The Houthis will not be able to get visas to enter America. So that'll show them. No Disneyland for the Houthis.
One thing that has occurred economically during this series of conflict with bombing and closing down the Red Sea on shipping, and in the inflation which pushes prices up, the price of oil has not responded in that way. We've had some very bad weather here, and heating oil didn't really go up. So you might say, well, I think economically it's not, it's explainable, and it can be understood, but it still is amazing. But the only thing I would say is that the war will continue, probably get worse. The interruption in trade is going to get worse. The inflation is not, inflation doesn't come like one big clump and then it's done and over with. It's up and down, and it steadily goes in one direction, and that direction is the prices are going to go up, the printing of money is going up, and the $34 trillion, it has to be monetized. So that to me would say that, there will be at least a government created shortage of oil. Oil prices will go up, because I just can't see how that'll happen. I'm rather surprised. And a lot of people should be pleased that they've been able to get some gasoline again. Yeah. But that is understandable, the way the market works, even when it's an inflated market. But that doesn't mean you should say, oh, they've had the answer. This time it's different. We can control the prices. But when you watch the television and watch the interviews, the people don't think the prices are being controlled. They're terrified about going to the store.
Yeah, I am too. I'm going to go after the show. I don't want to go. I'm afraid. Well, I'm going to close out, Dr. Paul, if you think we're ready. And I'm looking at our monitor, and I'm looking at everyone chatting here, and I'm noticing that we've got about 918 live viewers right now, and that's great. I'm happy to see that. But I'm going to ask each one of you a favor, because when I look at likes, I only see 70 likes. So what you can do to help us out that won't cost you a penny is right now, while you're sitting there, reach over and click on the like so that we have 918 likes for the show. That will boost us up and help us. And if you're not subscribed, we're almost at 350,000 subscribers. Please subscribe to our channel. That helps us get boosted up. It helps tell Rumble that people want to watch the show, so they offer it more up front. And that's true with YouTube and the other platforms as well. We're live on Rumble as of now. So doesn't cost a penny, helps us boost the show. It's a win-win, so thank you for that.
Very good. You know, numbers are very important, because when you have a huge number of people and they're having their input about the prevailing attitude about what should be done, we should get out of this war, or we should do this, or we should slow up on spending, we should quit the nonsense with COVID. But the numbers are very beneficial and can be, and I talk about that as being a prevailing attitude. But it's secondary to the attitudes that are created by the people, both good and bad, that talk about theory. And of course, our university system, our government educational system for the last 110 years has been negative for the cause of liberty. But the numbers, where we are seeing some benefits and people moving in the direction, nobody knew what the statistics were, and we didn't have to have all those young people come to Washington, the other day to say that we're sick and tired of the nonsense about climate. So it's important for a message, and that what I'm saying is I don't lie awake at night and saying we need more. Daniel makes the point we do need more and we want more, because it is symbolic of something, because it deals with an attitude, and that's why we're also in the education business. That's our main goal, is to get people to understand why liberty, property rights, and sound money will bring us more peace and prosperity than all the bombs in the world. And one of these days we'll wake up and we could, if we so desire, live in a much more peaceful and prosperous world. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.